rewind time.
I'm gonna try to review Aladdin without making too many Will Smith meme references because I feel like that's what we're all thinking. So today I'll be talking about the 2019 version of Aladdin, and that's I gotta stop, I'm sorry. Let's begin. Now, it's important for you guys to know moving forward that I was a die-hard Aladdin fan growing up. As a kid, I would literally watch the movie on repeat. On our old VHS player, as soon as the movie ended, I would take it out, put it back in, and watch it again. And there was a big chunk of my life where I would come home from school every day just to watch the movie again. And I'm not exactly sure why I did that. It's definitely a good movie. It's one of those Disney animated classics that can stick with you, especially if you watched it when you were much younger. And I'm trying to figure out what really stood out to me about the original Aladdin. Maybe it was the music, maybe it was the confidence and the swagger of the genie, kind of being better than everyone and being funny and just being overall really, really well animated, plus the whole rags to riches story for Aladdin, learning to be yourself is truly what the princess wants from you all along. I don't know, it's kind of classic. Story-wise, it's not anything overly complicated, but I don't think it has to be. And that's what made me very, very worried leading up to the 2019 release. If you guys remember, I did do a video on the trailer we got for Aladdin on this channel a few months back, and I was not feeling good about it because as far as I could tell, it appeared to just be a shot-for-shot remake. They were just instantly recreating everything that had already been done, and the Will Smith CG looked horrible. First bit of good news I want to address is that the Will Smith animation looks a little bit better. I noticed the exact shot that I was before critiquing in the trailer. The lighting was different, the textures looked a lot more realistic, and sure, I'm positive there were a ton of scenes in this movie where the CG looked a little bit worse than other spots, but ultimately they're trying to make a live-action genie, and there's not really a realistic way to do that because we don't know what that's supposed to look like. So after seeing all the criticisms, I just want to say that the animators for Aladdin did a very good job responding to the criticism and trying to make the Will Smith genie look as natural as possible, even though it's a very unnatural image. Watching the film, it wasn't distractingly bad as it was in that initial trailer that they released, and now I'm just wondering, why did they release that trailer in the first place? It was awful, and it just got all of our hopes down. But I think it's good that we all complained because clearly they responded to it and they knew they had to go back to the animation department and make sure they get everything right. But yes, in a lot of ways, I think the way Robin Williams kind of carried the original Aladdin film as being the most funny character, the character with the most quippy lines and making the overall film enjoyable, kind of carries over into the Will Smith Aladdin. Now, by no means is Will Smith a Robin Williams replacement, but personally, I'm kind of glad they went with an actor and they went with a personality that wasn't trying to do a Robin Williams imitation. First of all, you don't have to make an Aladdin remake. I wish they would have just considered that. Maybe we should just try to make new stories and new plot lines instead of just rehashing every single animated Disney film ever. But we all have nostalgia and they want money, so I can't blame them. If they're going to make an Aladdin remake, they have to make one. Will Smith is probably a good direction to take it in because he's not a Robin Williams look-alike or sound-alike. You know, he wasn't trying to directly imitate what the genie was in that original Aladdin film. He was trying to bring a different tone to it. A genie that enjoys rapping and kind of working out, which I kind of found bizarre. A lot of this movie is the genie trying to show off how muscular he is and how big he is, even though in the original, I mean, he would joke about having like big muscles and he would make fun of Schwarzenegger, but when the genie was in like his default state, he was always just kind of chubby, big. He would say things like, "Look at me from the side. Do I look different to you?" I love all those little quippy lines, but I think it would have been more disrespectful and it would have not been as interesting if they found some actor that was good at doing impressions and had some actor try to do as many different impressions as they could to kind of imitate what Robin Williams did. But no, Will Smith is quite literally Will Smith in this movie. He's not really playing a character as he is being himself and happens to also be a genie. That's kind of how I saw this movie. But there were a lot of scenes where he genuinely made me laugh. Will Smith is a pretty good actor. He's been in a lot of good, he's been in a lot of bad, but in this film in particular, I thought he was pretty funny. He was enjoyable. We watched the movie with a very full audience and a lot of people laughed at a lot of the lines he delivered. As for the rest of the cast, it's kind of difficult to say they made the film interesting. A lot of it just felt like watching a stage play because it was like, yeah, I know this song, yeah, I know this part of the movie. Do I even disclose that they're spoilers? Because the movie's been out for years, and they did some slight changes with the 2019 Aladdin, but I wouldn't say that they were bad changes. It felt more like touch-ups they wanted to make on the original script. Like one one thing I'm kind of happy about is the fact that they aged Princess Jasmine to be a little bit older, because if you haven't seen the original Aladdin in a long time and you go back and watch it, you start to realize it's kind of creepy. Princess Jasmine is not even 18 years old in the original, and there's scenes where she's like in chains and Jafar wants to marry her and then she tries to seduce him, and you start to realize, wait a minute, is this a kid's movie? This is kind of inappropriate. Plus, you kind of get away with them not wearing as many clothes when they're cartoons, but in modern day or in live action, that probably wouldn't go as well. So I think it's good that they kind of covered them up more than the original and didn't make Jafar as old and as creepy. I know a lot of people had problems with that. I totally get it. The Jafar in this film was definitely not as sinister or evil as the original Jafar, but they were trying to do something different with his character to make him relate to Aladdin a little bit more by going into Jafar's past and suggesting that he too was once a thief and his goal is to just be the most powerful man in the world. And because of those changes, Jafar had to be a little bit younger and also not so crazed about, I need to marry Princess Jasmine, which does come up in the film, but I guess it's handled in just less of a creepy way because Naomi Scott obviously is not 16 years old and he doesn't like desperately want to marry the princess. It's just kind of a last minute like, oh, you know what? Because you're complaining so much, just marry me. Let's just get this over with. So for the sake of not creeping out audiences and making this family friendly for everyone, I can tell why they made a lot of those changes, but by no means is this film better than the original, and I don't think they were trying to be. As Will Smith himself said in a ton of interviews, Robin Williams made very little room for improvement on the original, so all the changes they really made to the script I think were mostly minor, kind of fixing up things. Like, I enjoyed that the genie kind of had this emphasis about gray area when making wishes, because the original genie had to be a bit more specific with what people were wishing for, whereas this one is like, all right, well, technically I want to save you from drowning, so I'm gonna backdate this contract and then have you sign it instead of just saving him without any instruction like the genie did in the original. It kind of breaks the laws of the genie code, I guess you could say, because he's supposed to say, genie, I wish for this, and he didn't do that when he was drowning, but the genie still saved him. So Will Smith's genie was trying to kind of make a gray area where there was room for interpretation on the genie's end to grant a wish that may have not been specified to an exact point. So basically continuity stuff. Like, instead of Jafar asking, I want to be a genie, which is kind of a dumb suggestion, but in the original film it's mostly that he's worked up in the moment and he's not thinking through his actions. In this film he says, I wish to become the most powerful being in the universe, and Will Smith follows up that with, well, there's a lot of gray area in there and technically a genie's the most powerful, so I'm gonna make you a genie, and then he gets stuck in the lamp. I know it's kind of minuscule changes, but I'm glad it wasn't exactly a shot-for-shot remake. The first 20 minutes of the film started to feel like very, very by the books, like, oh my god, they're literally just doing exactly what we've seen before. But as the film carried out and I saw the approach of the story kind of take different directions and different turns than the original, then I started to get somewhat more into it. And by far the best part about the Aladdin remake has to be the music composition. Will Smith's Friend Like Me has to be one of my favorite modern day era covers of an original 90s soundtrack, because I've been listening to it nonstop. I think Will Smith is a great singer, great rapper. He's very, very talented, and they brought a new tone and a new kind of feel to a lot of the songs from the original that almost like me love the remake soundtrack more than the original soundtrack. Obviously, original soundtrack gets all the credit because they're the ones who wrote the lyrics and wrote the notes to make all of this music possible, but the new covers of everything just kind of feel like very, very accurate and very well done remixes, and I'm a big fan of remixing traditional music, so by far I think they did a really, really good job rescoring everything. I even kind of like Naomi Scott's new song that wasn't part of the original, Speechless. It's not like Let It Go levels of iconic, but still, I think it's very catchy. I think she's a very talented singer, but by far I think Will Smith's song A Friend Like Me and Prince Ali were handled very, very well. I'm a big fan of the music. That probably has a lot to do with my nostalgia towards the film than anything, but hey, it's a musical, and if you're gonna make a musical, you gotta make sure the music's good, so that's an important part of the film. In regards to the plot, it's exactly as you should expect. They made some little changes, like Princess Jasmine becoming the Sultan at the end of the film, which I was kind of okay with. Why would they just grant this guy who likes to steal stuff off the street, why would they give him permission to be the Sultan? I guess that was just how things were back in the day with the original Aladdin, but it makes more sense that Princess Jasmine would want to lead, would want to rule the country, and is just kind of ignored at the law, not allowing her to do that. And her father changes the law at the end of the film once he realizes, holy cow, I almost lost her, I want you to be happy and I don't want to lose you again. Opposed to the original movie where the Sultan is very short, fat, and kind of a bumbling idiot, and at the end he's just like, you know what, this law is kind of stupid, you can marry whoever you want, which kind of defeats the purpose of the whole movie. The whole movie was trying to find a prince to marry, but then at the end he's like, I don't care. You can marry whoever and he can be sultan. I don't care who he is. This one makes a bit more sense that it's like, all right, clearly you know the people, you know how to rule. I give you permission to rule Agrabah. Tiny changes like that just kind of made it a bit more realistic. The magic carpet ride was just a tour of Arabia and that part of the world instead of traveling across the entire planet, which is a tad unrealistic, but it's an animated movie, who cares? Overall though, I'm glad to say I was decently surprised with Aladdin. I thought the movie was gonna suck. I thought it was gonna make me cringe and make me go, oh my god, why does this exist? I'm still kind of curious as to why they feel like they have to make live action versions of everything, but the visuals and the creativity involved with the Friend Like Me scene, probably my favorite part of the movie, was just so creative and so well done at the end of the day that I'm kind of glad they made this, because honestly to me it's just worth it for the soundtrack given how much I listened to it, and watching the movie itself was just kind of making me think back to the original a lot, and I looked at this one as more of a stage play. You know the story, you know the characters, you know how it ends and everything. You're just watching this person's adaptation of it. The original is of course still untouched. What Robin Williams' character and the original voice actors were able to produce back in the 90s was incredible. That will always be the more iconic known film, but seeing Will Smith's cover of a lot of these songs and seeing some new actors that have a lot more diversity, that are accurate to the location, and trying to mix things up a little bit to make more appropriate for the times, to bring a new generation this story, to bring another generation the morals and the lessons of this film to the younger demographics. The story, the legend of Aladdin gets to be continued on, and I'm kind of okay with that. So all I'm trying to say is it's a cash grab, sure. They're just trying to make a few bucks, but it was a somewhat thoughtful cash grab. There was legitimate effort put into it. There was some thought, and they wanted to make sure they made a quality piece, even if it is a cash grab, and even if it's just motivated by money and they just want to capitalize on nostalgia, they still put some heart into it. So if you saw the 2019 Aladdin, let me know what you think of it by following us over on Twitter, except not the Talos of Tech Twitter. We do have a movie reviews Twitter, as well as joining our Discord. We're in the media section. We are always talking about different movies and shows coming out. I want to know what you guys are thinking. So thank you all for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Take care.